Welcome to another episode of On the Job with PORAC, the podcast where we dive into issues that matter most to California peace officers, legislation, public safety benefits, advocacy, and the values that define our profession. I'm Brian Marvel, president of PORAC, and with me is Ben Therriault, vice president of PORAC. In this episode, we're focusing on one of the most critical and hard-earned protections PORAC provides to its members every single day, the PORAC Legal Defense Fund, or LDF. The LDF is member-governed, mission-driven, and built specifically for the unique legal risks peace officers face on and off the job. It delivers experienced, no-cap legal representation with 24/7 emergency response while providing long-term stability in an environment where officers are under constant scrutiny. Today, we're honored to be joined by Alan Kuboyama, chair of the PORAC LDF, and Fred Rowbotham, National Executive Director of PORAC LDF. They'll walk us through the mission of the fund, how it supports members during critical incidents and investigations, current initiatives, and why this benefit is essential for protecting careers, finances, and families. So now is the perfect time for more members to fully understand and utilize this cornerstone protection. Alan and Fred, thank you for being with us today.
Former chair as well, right?
Absolutely. Thanks.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, man.
That's right. You bet. We've been meeting with all of the trusts and doing podcasts with them, and we felt it was important to just try to create additional visibility for some of the members out there. They probably don't know they have LDF coverage, but this would be a great time. Why don't we just initially start and just, if either one of you want to take on what is LDF? How did it get started? Maybe some history there.
Sure, love to. LDF's been around for about 50 plus years. It started as something that comes out of the Bay Area. All great things come from the Bay Area, right? Years and years ago, we had some members get in trouble, use some force while they were doing their job, and this was before LDF. All the member associations sitting around the table determined, why don't we pass the hat around, collect a little bit of money, provide some defense for these guys, and try to help them out a little bit. It was done in an informal fashion. They provided a defense for this group of folks who were prosecuted just for doing their jobs, as we see all too often. And at the end of the day, they looked around the room and said, why don't we do this on a more formal basis? Instead of an ad hoc thrown together fashion that we did this time to help them out, let's do this perpetually, so it's always there. Hopefully you never need it, but if you do, it's there to take care of the guys and gals. That's how LDF was formed all those years ago at the PORAC table.
So where are we at now then on members and size, I guess, in just, 55 years?
Yeah, it's wild how things have grown, all by word of mouth. We have over 161,000 members. We have members in all 50 states and a couple U.S. territories. And we've got the attorneys and the experts in place to back up all of those guys and gals across the whole country and take care of them.
It's a long way from pass the hat.
Yeah, it absolutely is. We got over $80 million in the bank. It sounds like a huge amount of money, but we have a huge responsibility to take care of the guys and gals. We want to make sure we can do what we promise to do for them, and we're in a position to do that.
Yeah, I really do think that PORAC LDF is the platinum standard for legal defense for peace officers. With that said, what kind of critical incidents do you guys get called out on? What are people calling for? What would be the common call right now in today, 2026?
Well, I think everything we do is under the microscope right now.
Yeah.
There's people across the country and across the world Monday morning quarterbacking things that we did before the report's even written. Anytime you're involved in a use of force, a critical incident, a death in custody, a traffic collision that results in serious bodily injury or a death, you're going to have parallel investigations that are going to be starting, from jump, internal affairs, professional standards investigations occurring at the same time. Criminal detectives are going to be sitting there asking all the same questions, and I couldn't imagine being in that position without having an attorney and an advocate sitting there in the room with you to make sure that your rights aren't being trampled on and all the pertinent facts are coming out and being known to everybody, to shed a light on what happened.
So we talked a little bit about the panel firms and the attorneys. I'm assuming they're vetted. How do you guys determine who gets on the panel and who doesn't?
So it starts at PORAC's a grassroots organization, right? And at the beginning, the attorneys come to us most of the time from those local associations. They've got relationships. They know the people who can do excellent work representing law enforcement. So that's how a lot of the initial relationships are built and the names come forward. But after that, there's vetting top to bottom to make sure that they know what they're doing, that they haven't had problems in the past, that these are the excellent attorneys that we want representing our members. And you know what I always tell people is, we don't subscribe to the my cousin Vinny. You can't just throw a dart against the wall or put your finger in a phone book. This has to be somebody who specializes and knows how to represent law enforcement. Because if I've got somebody at my local association, this isn't a plan that only covers you while you're on duty at 2 o'clock in the morning. You might be in another state with your family and you step in to thwart a crime and you take some legitimate law enforcement action and need an attorney. It's going to be the same phone number that you'd call if you were back home at your association to get an attorney to come out. But obviously it's not going to be that same guy or gal who you're used to seeing. We want to make sure that the attorney we have on speed dial at that location in a different part of the country is just as effective and just as knowledgeable as that attorney who you've relied on your entire career back at home. So all the attorneys are vetted. You're not going to find yourself in another part of the country or another part of the state and find an attorney who isn't top tier and excellent.
Kind of touched on two key things there. I mean, one, it's like just because you get past the gate, so to speak, doesn't mean you have to stay at a standard at a level. Like it doesn't just you made a pass, like you're good in perpetuity. So I think that's important for people to know.
That's a huge point, Ben. I'm glad you brought it up because it's a constant evaluation. Just like you at your police department or me at my police department, I'm always being evaluated. I'm always being critiqued. I'm always being expected to perform at a top tier, high functioning level. And if I fail to continue doing that, our relationship between you and LDF is going to come into focus as well and be evaluated. So no one should ever rest on their laurels because it's a constant evaluation to make sure everyone that we have available to our members is top tier.
That's critically important too. As I think we've all been past presidents of our own personal unions, and we had instances where we had like a member wasn't a member. Dual representation, getting a hold of PORAC LDF. We had an attorney out. They were covering the members. The other national program, the attorney never showed up. But out of the attorney that we did have, just couldn't let the person sit there. So they gave him some advice until we had to reach out and find that attorney from that other national organization. And, that's a little bit problematic that I don't think a lot of members really hear about.
Again, two things there. You touch on the quality and the work ethic of the attorneys that we have out there, right?
Yeah.
Wanting to take care of everybody who's in the law enforcement community, even though they might not be getting paid by this guy because he's, using some other, second tier plan.
Yeah.
But our attorneys are there to take care of the guys and the gals. So huge point in that. The other point you touched on, I mentioned it at the beginning. We don't advertise. This whole thing about spreading across the country and across the state and expanding with members, it's all word of mouth. And that's exactly how I think a lot of this happens. You have guys who maybe they were a police officer or a deputy sheriff in a city or county where they had PORAC LDF, and then they go somewhere where they don't or they have something else. Hey, we want to have what I had back over there. Or you have guys who are on a task force who have some are a part of PORAC LDF, some are not. And once they see the response and the quality caliber of attorneys that they get, hey, we want to have that PORAC LDF too. And that's how this thing really has just snowballed across the country.
Sells itself almost. And then, touching on something or following back on something you touched on earlier, it has never been more perilous to be in law enforcement on whatever role you're at. I mean, everyone has liability, really from chiefs on down. I mean, like there is some way for that folks are trying to get at people. You have, a regular DA prosecution that you could have. You have your administrative internal side. You have police commissions. You have SB2 and post if you're in California. So it's just, it's a tidal wave of things that can just befall upon you and that you have to deal with and need need legal help because we're cops like to think like we're really good at navigating the legal waters, but the truth is like that's not really reality.
To your point, Ben, there's so many different aspects of the job now. You think about the 80s, 90s, and then even probably, Fred, to your time when you started. And today, you've got body cameras, you've got cameras in the car, you've got cell phone cameras around the community, you've got surveillance videos everywhere. And even if the officers were to do their job the way it should be, the optics can be construed differently. And I think that's where LDF comes into play to say, hey, listen, we are here to defend an officer, give them their due process, because at the end of the day, an allegation can take someone's career away from them. There's a potential for that.
Totally.
And LDF is here to make sure that we are here to defend against that.
Well, think about also, it's not just the attorneys, right? It's the, what about the experts? If I'm in a shooting and, I'm, my eyeballs are over here, but my body camera is here, vice versa. It's like all these little things. Like now we have to have an expert to talk about that. To break down what the view of the camera is, to break down the perception reaction time of a thing. You have to have all these things, and they cost money, and they need to be good. They need to be viable. They can't be just some like you said, my cousin Vinny, or just some mail-in stuff that people. It'll be fine. Like, don't worry about I'm not gonna feel. I don't feel fine because I feel like I'm about to get hemmed up. So where's my help?
Yeah, I mean, you hit on a huge point again. The money. I mean, the reality is, if the government has you in their crosshairs, they will pull out all the stops and spend as much as it takes if they think they can get a pound of flesh out of a public safety officer. And to get to the end of a trial on the defense side, it can cost well over $1 million or more. Where's that money going to come from if you're not a member of something like LDF? Because you're gonna go around with your hand out to your family members, to your friends, to your parents, to your grandparents. You're going to be asking family members to mortgage their house to pay for your legal defense, and that's no joke. That's the reality of it is. And at the end of the day, if you get the best case scenario, which is acquitted, you still don't get any of that money back. You're looking around, thanking all your friends and family, but you're still out $1 million maybe or more. So
you're working overtime shifts until the next millennium.
Yeah, so there's no digging yourself out of that hole once you're there.
Yeah. And I always try to point that out to people. They'll be like, oh, well, you guys are a little bit expensive. I'm going to go with this cheaper program. And it's like the first thing you need to ask them is how many $1 million cases they've handled. And I can guarantee you that PORAC LDF has handled a lot more, and I don't think they've ever handled. And I think that's a big issue and concern because isn't one of the biggest expenses experts?
The experts is a huge expense, and much to the chagrin of the attorneys who obviously want to have the biggest piece of this pie. Yeah. It's no longer them; it's the experts. Yeah. Because, as Ben said, you've got to bring to bear the best experts out there, and we have those as well. That's the benefit of the scale that we operate at. If we need an expert in Alameda or down in San Diego, if the best expert for that particular field is not located there, we'll bring them from wherever they need to be. We'll spend whatever is reasonably necessary to get you the best possible outcome. What we found is you need a pathologist. Well, we call a pathologist to the stand. The government calls a pathologist. Now everybody needs a second pathologist because everybody wants to one up the other guy. You'll suddenly have a couple pathologists on a case, and the expenses just start spiraling. But we've got the bench that is deep enough to find everything that member needs.
It's fascinating too on the money, and again, this is love our profession, but cops are cheap, and for whatever reason. But this is like when I was a baby cop, the first thing I learned about PORAC anything was about LDF. It was like, hey, what happens? Because hey, what happens when what's this? Again, it's before cameras, a little bit different, but it's like, what's this get in trouble thing? IA thing? What's this notice? I got to talk to a sergeant. What's all this mumbo jumbo? And it's like, you don't want to shirk on that. You want to, I want that to be, big and robust, and I want it to be, top tier. And it always cracks me up when people are like, oh, well, it's a lot of money. I'm like, is it though? Like when someone's putting a foot in your ass down the road, like, is it going to be a lot of money then when the lawyer doesn't show up, and then you got to ask the other hey, other guy's attorney, hey, can you help me out? To your example, or, hey, what kind of expert to get? Oh, well, I'm sorry, you ran out of hours on this legal plan, or, oh, I'm sorry, you ran out of experts in their hours on this plan. I don't want to feel that way. I want, like I said, you want a robust, I know things will be taken care of. And unfortunately, in our profession, we are very short-sighted on things.
Well, let's take a step back and talk a little bit about the leadership and the governing of LDF. And as the chair, what's the makeup of LDF from your perspective?
So we have 5 trustees, 4 of whom are elected, representing each of the 4 regions within PORAC, and then the 5th person is appointed by PORAC. So the 5 of us represent a vast majority of our members here, and it's an opportunity for us to really do outreach, understand what the members are looking for, and bringing that to the table here within our group. The 5 of us oversee the administrator who runs the day-to-day operations of the trust, and we make policy decisions about which way the trust should go. We are a relatively new group. I want to say that Rudy Bajorquez out of Region 3 is probably the most senior, and I think he's been around for about 4 years. So we're all in this learning curve. It's an opportunity for us to really better understand what our roles and responsibilities are and understand what that relationship between the trust and the administrators are and what our role is within the entire PORAC organization.
And the good thing is if you're denied a claim, a member can come forward and speak to the trustees, and the trustees are active peace officers.
Yeah, there's a huge benefit to that. If you think about, who knows cops the best, right? It's the people that are doing the job. And of course, the plan document has rules about what we can and cannot cover, and the administrator is bound by that book. But every member who does not get the coverage that they think they need can come back to us and really share their case. And the administrator's office does a great job, but they've never been in our shoes. And so for the 5 of us to be able to hear that story and really understand the dynamics, and oftentimes it's, hey, you know what, these are mistakes that may have happened, but to no fault of the employee. It could have been a victim. They could have been a victim of a political environment, whether it be at their local level within their department or nationally based on what's happening in law enforcement. And so for them to be able to share their story with the 5 of us, I think is important for them. It's also important for us to really know what's happening. And so that additional opportunity for them to appeal their case is really important for everyone.
It's huge. I mean, I want to be, I want that opportunity to have, again, if I got to explain some circumstances to some folks, I don't want to be explaining it to some insurance adjusters, who, don't know shit from Shinola about, police work, anything. I don't want it. I don't even, and then another thing, I don't want people who are disconnected from the job too. Everyone who is on, the trustees have to be, they're elected and they're active folks, and they have to be active to be to be elected trustees. That matters too, because, and it's no shade to people who have done this job, but it doesn't take very long to be separated and out of the game for you to be I don't know, do you understand the degree angle on a camera if you never wore a camera? No. Is that going to be a consideration in your thought process? No. Or anything even just past the political environment post George Floyd? Is that even on your radar? You might have read something about it, but it's different when you live in it.
Yeah, the reality is, I think you're right, Ben. If you really haven't been in the job in the last 5-10 years, I mean, I've been on 27 years now, and when I first came on to where we are now it's the evolution of law enforcement within the state of California and probably nationally is just has increased exponentially. I mean, the amount of technology that our officers have in the vehicle. I mean, you got in-car cameras, you got body cameras, tasers. We're going to drones now, AI. It's just to know that you guys are active, to be able to go to that appeal is a big issue. If I was going to seek an appeal, because if you've been retired and say you're the chair of another LDF and you've been retired for 10 plus years, you're not going to be connected with that individual. I just don't see how you can be.
No chance at all. Your information becomes stale. Your experience becomes stale. I mean, I can look back just a couple of years ago. You get out of patrol, you go to the watch commander's office for a while. You're still not in tune completely to what the new guys are doing out in the field. So to extrapolate that into somebody who's been retired, who's not even in the role anymore, you can't really have your finger on the pulse of what's going on today and render decisions that are these are important to people's lives day in and day out. Going back to what Ben was talking about, the insurance guys, that's a huge piece of this. I mean, we're formed as a nonprofit ERISA trust. Every dollar that comes in is driven back to the members in some way, shape, or form in the way of benefits. There's no insurance guy looking back trying to make a buck. So the lens at which the trustees look at all the decisions is how can we benefit the members to a higher degree, and having a handful of full-time working cops and deputy sheriffs making all the ultimate decisions can't be overstated. And again, if this is our plan, this is for our benefit. If there's something people want to see, a change, a tweak that we could make, bring that forward to the trustees, because they ultimately can make this into whatever we want it to be and keep it focused on what's important today. I mean, immediately what comes to mind is SB2 and the Post Commission. Ben sits on the Post Commission, so nobody knows this better. But a couple of years ago, I remember having a conversation with Brian when I was chair. When that was first, there were whispers and rumors of SB2 coming up. LDF, we put together a plan to address that. So that's something that we offer to all of our members now. If they want coverage through decertification, we've got that available to them, and we'll take that all the way through the process, because that's the issue of the day, I think.
Yeah, but the reality is, if you get decertified, it's not just here in California; it's a national decertification. You're done in law enforcement.
It's just priorities, and then the insurance stuff. People just trying to. I mean, like I'll say it on the record, no problem. If your plan is judged by an insurance carrier and not by other, by bureaucrats or some, just call them pogues, it's applied to cops, but it didn't. Then your plan is not suited for you. It is not designed in frame and structure to benefit you.
I sat for 15 years as a trustee, and the vast majority of that as chairman. I can tell you, looking at this from the inside, the trustees are so sensitive to what you're talking about the dollars. They want to keep the cost as low as they possibly can, but they want to make sure that there's excellent benefits and the money's there to back up the officers if they need it in time of crisis. So every year they set the rates with that in mind, keeping it as low as they possibly can, but to make sure that they collect just a little bit more dollars than the financial experts that advise them, anticipate us needing. And having 55 years of history gives you a solid look back for anticipating what's going to be needed. And they hit it out of the ballpark every year as far as figuring out what the number is, keeping that rate really low, but collecting the appropriate amount of money to make sure that the benefits are there.
Because reserves are important. I mean, you need to be able to, hey, we need to be able to handle all these claims if we need to. I mean, like, that stuff matters. That kind of fiscal responsibility, like you said, every dollar is some way going back into the members, one shape or form. And that matters.
Well, let's close it up with a couple last questions. I guess, one of the important things is what do you feel is the most important thing to get to have a member understand what LDF is and how you support them?
Ben mentioned it earlier. I think, and Brian, you did as well, that we've all operated our POAs, DSAs. We've all led our groups. And it's hard to get people to understand that a small investment is a huge protection for them in the future. We've all filled out dues deductions forms with new members, and we've tried to explain to them the benefit of being a member of PORAC, the value of being a member of LDF, paying for additional life insurance for your family and all those things. And when you have a new employee who is usually not at the top of their pay range, they're looking at what they're having to pay, and they're thinking, gosh, this is a lot of money. But as you go through your career, you realize that was a small investment compared to what I could get if I needed it. And so really, I think the idea is, hey, listen, we want to make sure you are protected. As association leaders, you want to make sure that you've got the best pay and benefits package for your members. You've got protections from an LDF standpoint. You've got the best benefits package from life insurance that they want. And then making sure that they feel part of that association. And so as we talk about some plans that we have, It's making sure that the member understands that, hey, listen, you may not need this. You may not need it ever. But gosh, that one day that you actually need LDF, you're going to be grateful that you paid that small amount of money, that cup of coffee a day for the entire career to get unlimited coverage in the event that you were criminally prosecuted, which unfortunately in this day and age is a higher probability now compared to years ago.
You hope you go your entire career and don't have to use it.
Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
you can reflect back on it and know that those dollars, they went to help somebody else out who found themselves in a pickle and a jam, who needed some help out. So it's a small contribution to the law enforcement and public safety community. I look back to thank goodness to the people who came before all of us sitting at this table.
Yeah.
We're standing on their shoulders,
Sure.
hoping to make things a little bit better than it was when they set the table for us all those years ago. I look back fantastically ecstatic that my association was already in LDF. We already were participating in all these benefits. Therefore, we can get involved and make our contribution to make it a little bit better than it was at the beginning of our career.
I think that's why it's so strong nationally, because it's something that folks around in other places, there's different laws, different rules about labor and all this and that, and I think it really goes to show like how much of an issue that was and has had to grow over the years. And thank God someone thought about that in a lineup once upon a time or a briefing somewhere and was just like, oh yeah, why aren't we collectively dealing with this? And man, because it was the first thing I thought of as a brand new cop, and it was always on my mind, and that was in obviously less tumultuous times.
Yeah, we cover local. We even cover feds. If you're a federal officer and want PORAC LDF, reach out to your union leaders and ask them to switch over and become PORAC LDF members. Same in California or nationally. It's a great program. Well, we're going to have to wrap it up. We could probably talk about this all day. LDF, it's obviously one of the big topics of discussion whenever we go around to chapter meetings and stuff like that and talk to people. But I really want to thank both of you for coming in. And, our special guests, Alan Kuboyama, who's the chair of PORAC Legal Defense, Fred Rowbotham, who's the national executive director of PORAC LDF. Thank you for sharing your experiences and expertise in this area. We covered a lot today and why PORAC LDF is the premier legal defense fund for peace officers in America. We have some of the best, if not the best, attorneys working for us at LDF. We're in all 50 states, 2 U.S. territories with 1 phone number, which I like to stress. I also like the motto, the largest, the oldest, and the most respected. To every PORAC member and association leader listening, if you're not already taking full advantage of the Legal Defense Fund, now is the time to learn more and see how it can protect you when it matters most. Visit PORAC LDF website at poracldf.org, poracldf.org, or reach out to one of your active duty LDF region trustee directly to explore your coverage options, get questions answered, or start the conversation about ensuring your association is fully protected. This is a benefit built by active peace officers for peace officers. It delivers real protection year after year when careers and livelihoods are on the line. To every peace officer listening, thank you for what you do every day. Stay safe out there, take care of one another, and remember, we're all in this together.